to my channel. I am back with another Baddies Gone Wild review, so let's just get right into it. So the season finale of Baddies Gone Wild starts off with the girls getting on the sprinters to go do an activity that none of them knew what they were going to go do, but they ended up showing up to a soccer field and they had to play soccer. And I'm not going to lie, I actually enjoyed watching them play soccer together because this is the first time that they got together to do an activity and nobody started fighting. And even if the girls didn't like each other, they were able to play on the same team without getting into it. And so I actually enjoyed watching this. Like, even when they picked teams, I was actually surprised that people who didn't like each other were on the same team and able to work together. But Daisy was getting on my nerves during this soccer game because she kept picking up the soccer ball and throwing it into the goal instead of kicking it into the goal, and I felt like she was cheating, and so I got kind of annoyed at that. And then her team actually ended up winning, which I wasn't really happy about because she wasn't even playing the game right. But I thought it was cool that some of the locals in Brazil were watching them play and were actually cheering them on. I thought that was pretty funny. But everybody ends up going back to the Baddies' house because they have to get ready because they're having one last final dinner where Bahati and Daisy have to decide who's going to get the final Baddies chain of the season. And Bahati and Daisy get dressed and then they go meet up with each other right before dinner to have a conversation to see where their head's at. And basically Bahati says that she feels like Jadynn should get the third Baddies chain, but obviously Daisy does not agree with that. I wouldn't be mad about Jadynn getting the third chain, although she wouldn't be my first pick to get the third chain. I do feel like she went through a lot this season and a lot of people ganged up on her and she still stayed and didn't go home, and she fought even when she didn't want to and even when she got beat up. So I will say that I wasn't opposed to Jadynn getting the third chain, but personally I feel like Shay should get the third chain because I felt like the girls were ganging up on her this season and she stood 10 toes down. She defended herself even when it was multiple people against her. They even threw peanuts on the girl knowing she's allergic to it. She got jumped by all the girls outside of the club and she still stood 10 toes down, and now she's walking around with her arm and her hand broken. So I just feel like, you know, I think she's the one that deserves the third chain, but her name wasn't even mentioned in the conversation. But then Daisy ends up mentioning TT and feels like TT should get a Baddies chain, and I don't agree with that, and Bahati didn't agree with that either. And the reason why she didn't agree with it is because she did admit that TT was standing on business, and she can definitely fight and she was holding her own, but Bahati had a point. She was acting like a bully, jumping people, sneaking people, and hating on people, and I just don't feel like that's what makes a baddie. So Bahati was right to say that she doesn't feel like TT should get the third chain, and then Daisy ended up bringing up Coco and saying that she feels like Coco deserves the chain, and Bahati said that she did not think that Coco deserved the chain because she feels like Coco didn't do enough. I personally definitely don't think that Coco deserves that chain. Not only did she lie on Bahati and got Daisy to fight the girl, and then she ended up getting her hair ripped out of her head, but Coco has been walking around with this black eye since the very first episode of the show when Daisy blacked her eye, and she has yet to get her lick back on Daisy, but she was going at Bahati, Jadynn, and all the other girls and siding with the bullies and siding with the girl who blacked her damn eye for the entire season of the show. When I think back to this first season of Baddies Gone Wild, the only thing I'll remember about Coco is that she walked around with a black eye the entire season. Daisy ended up mentioning Hurricane M, and Bahati immediately said that she doesn't think that Hurricane M should get the chain because she doesn't know how to put shit to the side. She would not let go of the beef that she had with Jadynn. Even in this episode, she kept going at Jadynn. It's like this girl is obsessed with Jadynn, because I just felt like the situation between her and Jadynn should have been deaded after they fought in the first episode, and after that they shouldn't have had any more interaction ever again. But because, you know, Hurricane M is obsessed and Jadynn was her storyline, she made Jadynn her storyline the entire season, and honestly she made Jadynn very likable. But Daisy and Bahati couldn't come to an agreement at that moment, so they decided to just go sit down with the rest of the girls so that they can sit and eat. And Daisy ends up asking the girls, once everybody's at the table, if anybody has anything they want to say or talk about why they feel like they should get the Baddies chain. And TT immediately starts pressing Shay and Oxy about eating upstairs in their room instead of eating downstairs with everybody else. And I just didn't understand why she was pressing them about that, because at the end of the day, these two girls are injured. I mean, Oxy had a nail ripped off her foot. She had glass on her foot and the girl still made her fight anyway. And then Shay is walking around with a cast over her hand and her arm. So it's like, if they want to eat upstairs in their room away from everybody else, they should be able to, especially because why would they want to sit and eat with the girls that jumped them a couple of episodes ago? And then Jadynn started saying that she felt like the other girls on the show were not welcoming to her, Shay, Oxy, and Bahati, and she just felt like they were treating them some type of way the entire season, which the viewers saw, and that's why we like those four girls and we don't don't really like the rest because they were acting like a bunch of haters and bullies the entire season. It's okay to beef with somebody and not like somebody, but if you're dragging it the entire season and antagonizing them and messing up their rooms and doing all that extra shit like jumping them, then you're doing too much and you're taking it too far. But as soon as Jadynn said what she had to say, Hurricane M immediately starts telling her to shut up, and she's going at her and going off, and it's like, girl, you are obsessed with Jadynn. Like, usually I don't agree with people saying that somebody's obsessed with the person, because people say that same thing about Big Lex when it comes to Scotty, and she barely ever even talks about Scotty, so I don't think she's obsessed with Scotty. But Hurricane M is definitely showing that she is obsessed with Jadynn. Like, she made Jadynn her entire storyline. I don't know anything about Hurricane M this season but the fact that she doesn't like Jadynn. And even TT and some of the other girls that were riding with Hurricane M throughout the season were telling her that they were tired of her beef with Jadynn. It's like exhausting, honestly, to watch. But then all of a sudden, Coco cuts in and she starts asking if anybody has an issue with her because she feels like she deserves a Baddies chain. And I was confused as to why she thinks she deserved a chain, because it seemed like all she did was sit back and watch shit go down and she really didn't do anything. So I really don't understand why she thinks she deserves a Baddies chain. She started saying that she wasn't a follower, that she showed leadership skills, and that she didn't let anybody put a battery in her back. But it's like, girl, you definitely let Daisy put a battery in your back a couple of times this season. Not as much as some of the other girls, but you definitely let her put a battery in your back a couple of times. And she definitely didn't show any leadership skills. She was running up behind Daisy just like all the other girls were running up behind Daisy. She was running up behind a girl that blacked her eye and she didn't get her lick back for that. And then she lied on Bahati and got Daisy to fight Bahati, and then Bahati ended up getting her hair ripped out of her head. So why she thinks that she deserves a Baddies chain is beyond me. And why all of the girls clapped after Coco said that she felt like she deserved a chain was confusing, because clearly they didn't see what we saw on the TV, because Coco is not in anybody's list that I know of who should get the Baddies chain. So Daisy and Bahati start talking again, and Bahati tells Daisy that after hearing what Coco had to say and why she thinks she should get the Baddies chain, she changed her mind from what she said in the beginning, because in the beginning, Bahati said she didn't think that Coco deserved a Baddies chain, but after hearing what Coco had to say, she felt like she does think that Coco should get a Baddies chain. But then Daisy changes her mind and she says that she feels like TT should get the Baddies chain, and at the end of the day, she feels like she's the one who's supposed to make the decision and that Bahati is just supposed to assist her in making the decision. So she says she's giving the chain to TT, and Bahati told Daisy she's not giving that chain to TT. So they start going back and forth with each other a little bit, and Bahati takes her shoes off and she takes her stockings off, which her shoes and her little socks were cute as hell. Like, they had a little bow at the top. Like, she looked really cute. She looked like a doll. I thought her outfit was cute, and it sucked that she had to take it off because she knew she was going to end up having to fight. So Bahati and Daisy go back into the kitchen, and Bahati tells the girls that she felt like Coco should get a Baddies chain, but Daisy said that she wants to give it to TT. And that's when Daisy jumps up out of her seat and she starts telling Coco that Bahati was saying that Coco didn't deserve a Baddies chain. And it's like, yeah, she said that in the beginning, but after hearing what Coco had to say, she changed her mind and said that, you know, Coco should get the Baddies chain. And when Bahati explained this to Coco, Coco was still mad at Bahati and started going off on Bahati because she was believing what Daisy had to say. And I don't understand why this dumbass girl would believe something that somebody who blacked your eye for the entire season has to say. Like, that was confusing for me. Coco starts crashing out, going off on Bahati, so Oxy starts helping, you know, Bahati take off her Baddies chain because obviously they don't want it to get ripped off. And Rella gets in her confessional talking shit about Bahati taking off her Baddies chain. It's like, why was she fighting her Baddies chain knowing that somebody's gonna grab it and it's gonna break? Like, I was confused as to why Rella was upset about that. So Coco starts asking Bahati to fight, and they start fighting with each other, and I was so confused. I was like, Coco is going to look so stupid when this episode comes out and she sees what really happened, because yeah, Bahati said at first that she didn't think that Coco should get the chain, but the second time they went into the room to talk, Bahati changed her mind and she was going to give the chain to Coco, and I feel like Coco probably would have gotten the chain, but she ruined it by fighting the person who wanted to give her the chain in the first place. So it's crazy to me that Coco was acting like that. I mean, I personally feel like nobody that they mentioned should get the chain. I felt like Shay should get the chain. I would even be okay with Oxy getting the chain, but I don't feel like any of those other girls deserve a chain. So after Coco and Bahati finish fighting with each other, the girls go around the table and they start talking about their experiences, and all these girls use their opportunity to give their last word of the season to Bahati. They started talking about Bahati and they started talking about Shay and Jadynn and Oxy, and I was just like, why are you using your last moment of the season to put other girls on? That's why we like those 4 girls, because you guys made them your target the entire season and it made them likable. And Cupcake really blew my mind because Cupcake started going off on Bahati, telling Bahati that she didn't deserve the chain, and then trying to walk over there and charge at Bahati and picking up a glass like she was going to throw it at Bahati. It's like Cupcake needs to sit the hell down. Cupcake didn't do anything this season but act like a follower and get beat up, so I don't understand why Cupcake was coming at Bahati like that. Like, that shit was really weird. Coco gets up there and she starts calling Bahati a hater, and then she pulls her pants down and she starts smacking her butt, telling Bahati to kiss her butt. And Bahati is so funny. Bahati took her hand and covered her nose and started swinging her hand around, basically trying to say Coco smells. I thought that shit was funny. Bahati is funny because she started doing that same shit to Daisy too when Daisy got up there to talk. I thought it was crazy that these girls used their last opportunity to speak out to the audience, and what they said was about Bahati. Like, you guys literally made her the star of this season. And some of the girls like Hurricane M started saying that Bahati only got a chain because she had to shave her head, but that's not why Bahati got that chain. Bahati got the chain because Bahati was likable. The girls started with her the very first episode because they didn't like her wig and they started ganging up on her, and even when she was losing, she still continued to fight. These girls picked at her every single episode of the show, and she still stood up and she fought and she did what she had to do. Just like Jadynn, Oxy, Shay, I just feel like those girls were likable this season, and those are the only 4 girls that I like. The rest of the cast were not likable at all. I felt like Janelle's could have been likable, but because she ended up at the end running behind the girls that didn't even like her to begin with, I just felt like she wasn't really likable either. I did like Erica Raven, but I didn't like that she decided to leave the show early. So I like Shay, Jadynn, Oxy, and Bahati. So those are my thoughts on this week's episode of Baddies Gone Wild. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comment section, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video.